Okay, thank you for joining, Prem. Thanks a lot.
You're
I
welcome.
know,
Thank you.
I know it's late in evening for you, and I saw some of your videos on YouTube,
Hmm.
and I liked them. I liked what you had to say, and that's how I got interested in talking to you.
Hmm.
So thanks for accepting my invite, and thanks for joining.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're in California, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
That's where I just moved from about a year and a half ago. So
Oh, amazing,
everyone
amazing.
lives in a different country these days, than the country they
So,
were born in.
so were you like born and brought up in? I mean, where were you born and brought up?
Uh-huh. I'm from Michigan originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
born in Pontiac, and then we moved to Rochester, where Madonna's from. That's what I always tell people.
Wow.
The claim to
So,
fame. Yeah.
okay. So
Uh,
how did you end up? Right now you are in Croatia?
Croatia, yeah. I'm in
Ah,
Croatia. My wife is Croatian.
oh, that's how. That's how.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you
We
must be.
met at a Shivananda Yoga Center in San Francisco.
Wow, wow. How cool.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Okay,
Yeah, it's quite a story actually, but
okay. Yeah. So I think. I mean, if you can introduce yourself, we already got some intro,
sure.
but maybe a little bit
Okay.
bigger version of the intro.
Sure. Well, let's see. I go by the name Premdass, but usually only for like spiritual events or something. And we can talk later about how that name came to me. But basically, I use it. I play harmonium. I have two YouTube channels, Premdass Talks and Premdass Music. And so I've been composing my own songs since 2006, I believe. Actually, when I moved to San Francisco, um, and I had a guru in Southern LA for a while. And well, I'll just tell it right now. I basically woke up one morning and just I heard Premdass. Premdass. Oh, okay. And I like the word prema because I like love. and and I asked my guru, "Is this my name?" It came to me, and he said, "Yes, but don't use it. Don't use it right away." So it wasn't until I moved to San Francisco and then I had my harmonium and I started writing music that I thought, well, my name's Philip. Actually, Phil means love also, like philosophy or philanthropy or something like that. So it means love as well. But I was really big into Krishna Das at that time, so I thought, oh, you know, I use Premadas. So I contacted my guru and he said, well, it's not quite Premadas, it's Premdas. And then he changed the spelling of Das and things like that. So I don't really go around saying that's who I am or anything like that. I just I use the name mostly for the YouTube channels and for the music primarily. So, but yeah, I'm from Michigan, and I studied communications, radio, and TV in college, and then I went to Chicago and studied opera, vocal performance, and then I was in New York for a while. I was an equity actor, and I did some off Broadway productions, a lot of children's theater, and then I was with a guru, and I was tried to go to Hollywood and that whole story, and ended up in an ashram, and then to San Francisco, and then Washington D.C. for a while, and then Austin, Texas. So I've tried a lot because I'm curious. I've just been very curious since I was young, and non-duality specifically, I had read I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj. I've probably read that about 15 times. But I'd say the real opening happened for me when I read Adyashanti's book, Emptiness Dancing. And a friend of mine had given that book to me, and I had left LA, I had just gotten to San Francisco, and I read his book, and it was very powerful for me. And I think I actually read it on my birthday, and he was talking about his enlightenment as being something like his birthday. I think that's right. Maybe I have that wrong now, but I was really moved to tears and just felt like this is it. This is the truth I've been looking for. So that reawoken, I suppose, that hunger for, let's say, strictly non-duality or Advaita Vedanta, because I had been Catholic, I had been born again Christian, I lived at a Buddhist temple, I used to do Taoist Tai Chi. I was really big into Stephen and Andrea Levine and their work with the death and dying for many years as well. So, but non-duality itself really just, I guess I got bit by the bug in 2006 or something like that.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Adyashanti, you also mentioned enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
and you also mentioned your guru, whom you didn't name.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can speak about all the three, so about your guru, who he was, what is his name, what did he teach you, what did you learn, what do you mean by non-duality, and what do you mean by enlightenment?
Well, I have to say it's interesting. Last night I was singing kirtan at a Sai Baba center here in Zagreb. And Sai Baba I learned about on my 19th birthday, Satya Sai Baba. I was at a Paramahansa Yogananda Christmas retreat in Michigan. And somebody told me, like, oh, you need to hear about Sai Baba. So I was there for Paramahansa Yogananda, but I ended up really leaving with this devotion to Sai Baba. So Sai Baba's really been in my life, and I would say has been very influential. He's always sort of been there, but he sort of comes and goes. Sometimes he's more present, sometimes he's less present. But this summer, I guess I would just say that I felt like his presence and his life was coming back to me in a sense, through books and through people and through all of that. So I'm sort of excited, I guess, again, excuse me, about Sai Baba, and even though he's not in the body anymore, he just answers a lot of questions that I had, that I've, I guess, always had, and sometimes I answer them, but sometimes the answers don't always satisfy me enough, so I have to keep asking or keep searching. So I think it's important to mention him just because he's been influential and has been sort of always there, and I would say is there again. But anyway, so the guru that I had was Bhagavan Sri Pranananda, and he was south of LA, and I don't know, I don't talk about that experience too much. I did learn things, but it wasn't what I expected it to be. I was coming from New York at that point, and really just wanted to be an actor, and I used to call my ashram experience sort of like a military experience, which sounds kind of severe, but I think the main thing it did, it helped me to care more and to be less selfish, because really we were busy the whole time we were there, and we were engaged in many service opportunities and, let's say, ministries and things like that, and activities plus work, and it was just a full-on experience. So, but he didn't. I would ask him about non-duality, but he would say something like nothing really exists outside of self. But in terms of non-duality itself, that I wouldn't say that was his. It just wasn't his teaching. So when I lived in San Francisco, I did go to see Adyashanti a lot in Oakland, and I sat with him many times. I went on retreat with him, and he was the one I was really drawn to for a long time. And then I don't know if you've heard of Jack O'Keefe from Ireland, but I also was. I met her when I was in Washington, D.C., and spent a month with her in New York at one of her retreats, and even thought I would follow her to Costa Rica to her new center there, but life had other plans for me. I also spent time with Komal Rao, and he's in Austin, Texas, and I helped him with like websites and YouTube and videotaping him and things like that, and so I lived in close proximity of him for 3 or 4 months. It was kind of brief. But. So Non-duality to me is just about oneness. I recently started a page on Facebook called Non-Duality 101. And there are 3 principles that I think really say it all. And I did get those from Nisargadatta's book, I Am That. The first one is God is the totality of consciousness. So God is 100%. God is everything. God alone exists. The second principle is there is variety and difference, but no separation anywhere. So of course there's variety. There's Philip and Arvind and colors and shape and the whole universe of multiplicity and diversity, but there's no separation between anything. There's only one life happening, or one thing or no thing, depending on how you want to talk about it. And the third principle is that you are not a person. And that's a very important one that I go to a lot of satsangs, or at least I used to when I was in California, and I didn't hear people speak about that too much. The fact that, really that's what we're waking up from, is this dream of separation, this belief that we are just a separate individual person. Now I would say we're pure consciousness or a timeless being. I've written a lot of songs about awareness. I am awareness, I'm awareness. And I put a lot of those on my Premdass music site. But I think this thought came to me the other day about enlightenment. If form is emptiness and emptiness is form, if what we really are is empty space or awareness, can you really say that awareness gets enlightened or that emptiness gets enlightened? So most people that I've listened to, they say it's more about subtraction rather than addition. It's not necessarily that you get something, but it's that you lose something, and I think it's you lose that sense of separation. You lose that sense of duality. And some people even talk about losing the me, or losing the ego. That separate, that sense of a separate self just disappears. I like how Mooji and probably other people use this metaphor, analogy of a melting ice cube, that we go to satsang and this ice cube melts. So the ice cube's water, the water's water, but everything's just melting, and I like this metaphor. Again, I'm a big fan of love, so I write a lot of songs about love. God is divine love and pure love, and so I'm always trying to find another doorway or accessway to my heart, or you might say God's heart, or something like that, that helps to soften or reduce or melt my ego, my sense of separation. And yeah, I don't know.
No, that's pretty good. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you already described a little what you learned from Nisargadatta, what you liked in his teaching. So maybe you can also tell us what did you read from or heard from Adyashanti. What was core of his message according to you? I mean, I know there are.
Sure.
I mean, what you understood, and you mentioned that you have a music channel. You like singing, so maybe a little later you can sing few lines for us.
Okay. Okay. Adyashanti, I remember being at one of his satsangs one time, and he said something like, the awareness that you're looking for, isn't it already here? And it just, it's one of those moments of where a shift happens, and I just was like, oh my gosh, it is, it's already here. It's the whole room is actually appearing in this one awareness. And I remember, not to sound too wooey, but it was like everything became more light, and just comprehensive or whole. And so that was very important for me to hear that. And of course, it's never stayed with me. I'm sort of always, let's say, reminding myself or just tuning into that awareness that is always and already present. It doesn't leave. Everything else comes and goes, appears and disappears, but awareness, I call it the alpha and the omega, the first and the last. Awareness is. And when you get like a little taste of that, when it's no longer just a mental concept, but you actually, as Adyashanti would say, grok it. Oh, yes, awareness is here. Awareness is awake. It is that which is aware. It's the only thing that is aware. Then I think it never leaves you, really, when you see that or get that, let's say, once, really. And he and Mooji, not that it really matters, but one says, I think, something like rest as awareness, and I think maybe Mooji says abide as awareness, remain as awareness, and Adyashanti talks about that as being the teaching. It's just, you just keep coming back. Because I think really it's kind of a simple thing that's happening, in a sense, is that we keep going back to our minds, and we get lost in our thoughts and our images and the drama, the whole me story, and everything that's happening in the mind, and we lose, we end up being in the past, looking at memories, or in the future, anticipating what might happen, instead of being present with this presence and this awareness that's always and already happening, that's already here. So I suppose if I have a practice, that's just sort of it. It's just resting as that awareness, just noticing it. And as you notice it, it expands, or it becomes more predominant. It comes even more so to the forefront. And naturally the mind just sort of quiets. I'm not into forcing the mind to be quiet or controlling the mind or anything like that. I think basically just by seeing, many teachers say there's not even a mind. Can you actually find a mind? Can you find an ego? That's the whole thing. Can you find a person? Jack O'Keefe says there are 90,000 thoughts that appear and disappear a day. 90,000 thoughts. So these are just thoughts coming and going, sensations, feelings coming and going. Nisargadatta would call that, I think he would say, awareness is that which is changeless, and consciousness is everything that's changing, and these two sort of make up the one being. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, very good. So I would like to say something about what you just said.
Please.
So you mentioned that you had this test of shift of awareness. Some people will call it satori, some people will call it realization, some people would call it understanding. But irrespective of whatever name you give, you had an experience that was spiritual, and that you think or thought was closer to the truth, closer to reality, closer to who you really are. And since then, it hasn't really been constant or steady, and you have been thinking or wanting or inquiring or practicing to make it constant. So I would like to say a few things about that. So I read a story of Baron Katie, and what I really liked about her story is that without any real preparation, just because of very extreme suffering, she suddenly woke up. She suddenly went into this state where there is peace, there is grace, but there are no thoughts. There is no person, there is no me. And she remained in that state for a few days. But then thoughts started coming back. Ego started coming back. Personal story started coming back. Identification started coming back. Memories started coming back. And with identification, the whole samsara, the whole anxiety, the whole trouble, the whole mind game started coming back. And obviously she didn't like it. It's like somebody has become healthy, free of disease, free of ache, free of pain for the first time, and now he or she sees that ache or that pain coming back again. So naturally she didn't like it. So she was looking for a way that she can come back to the same original state. And that's how she basically discovered work, what she calls work, basically questioning every thought, finding out if it is really true. And once you find out, then also inquiring, if you never had this thought ever again, how would you feel? So this is not about forcing your mind. This is not about resisting what is happening. It's just getting into root of it, finding out, is it really real? Or is it something that I'm just thinking, something that I'm just imagining? And then inquiring for yourself that if this thought was not here right now, what would be my state? If this thought was never ever going to happen again, if I didn't have this ability, what would be my state? Again, this is not something like forcing, but it's just giving your mind, yourself, that intelligence, that test, so that mind consciousness can act accordingly. And since then, according to Byron Katie, she has been doing this work, this inquiry, every time there is a thought that is stressful, that is taking her away from peace, from grace, from love, from realization. So this story I found very, very practical, very close to reality, very pragmatic. So somebody would say that, oh, enlightenment is an event. It happens and forever you are free of all suffering, all troubles, all mental pain, anguish. But in my personal experience, that's not the reality. Some gurus might even see that way. But if you think of a guru, so think of like say Eckhart Tolle, or even think of Ramana Maharshi, or even think of Byron Katie, even Adyashanti, even Mooji. So most of them, all they do is teach. So all their time, all their energy, all their effort, everything is devoted to spirituality, meditation, inquiry. Most of them are not dealing with wife, children, lovers, society, friends, bank, policemen, or going to work, working on project, dealing with clients. So most of their time, their effort is already devoted to something close to meditation and inquiry. And other people who have to live normal life, for them there is a lot of external disturbances, influences that tend to take them away from this natural resting place. You might think that you are not somebody, you are not a person, but everybody would call you, okay, you Premdass, go and do this. You Premdass, you are going to be in trouble. You Premdass, you don't have enough money for retirement. You Premdass are late on your project. You Premdass might get fired. So society from every angle, every minute, every hour, every second is trying to enforce this personal identity on you. That is not something that is happening to gurus whose entire life, all their time is devoted to inquiry, is devoted to spirituality. So what is real for you, what is real for me, what is real for 99% of people is not really real situation for somebody who is devoted to a spiritual living, a spiritual teaching. And that's what I think most people miss. They think that Ramana Maharshi or Tolle or like Byron Katie or Adyashanti have somehow gone through this transformation where the very base reality has totally changed for them. But in my experience, that's not true. So that was the second point. And the third point I liked was there was a very famous and very controversial teacher who was born in India but became popular everywhere. He was known by Osho. Before that, he was known as Rajneesh. So when he was asked, he would say that he is always meditating. So he acknowledged, announced, said that he was enlightened. But he said that meditation, no matter what I am doing, no matter what I am talking about, meditation is always going on. So he, in a way, is giving you his secret. He's telling you that, okay, if you want to remain that way, you have to keep meditating all the time. It's not something that happens and you are transformed for all your life. This is something that just like you are breathing. So you cannot say, hey, somebody revived you, somebody like your heart stopped beating, and somebody revived you with artificial breathing. You cannot stop breathing just because you became alive, because being alive means to keep breathing. I would say enlightenment, realization, being at peace, resting as awareness is not something that different. So I like that also. And I recently interviewed a lady, her name is Ellie, and she said that meditation is, so you cannot keep meditation at last of your list. If you want to meditate, it has to be your highest, your number one priority. So your life has to be like meditate first, and then if possible, do anything else. So if you take that approach again, then it's very simple. So I like that also. And another thing I liked is from Papaji as well as my own experience. The problem arises because say right now I can think that, oh my God, for half an hour or for 2 hours I haven't been meditating, or I haven't been at rest. Or I can say, how can I be at rest forever or for 5 hours? But what we do not realize is that 2 hours before, 2 hours after is not really our under control. In reality, it's not the same consciousness, it is not the same awareness, it's not the same moment. I mean, this consciousness is only right now. It exists only right now. So its control, its responsibility begins and ends right now. So anytime only valid question, only good question to ask is, can I be peaceful right now? Can I rest as awareness right now? Right now. Right now means like a single breath. It doesn't even mean like second. It doesn't even mean like 10 seconds. Just right now. And anytime you remind, that's the only time you have. 2 hours ago, you were not peaceful, but actually you were not there. I mean, you might think that it was same consciousness, same awareness that was there, but that is an imagination that you are doing right now. And by imagining it, actually you are creating unease, lack of peace right now. So if you just take responsibility for just this moment, at any moment, that's the only moment is under our control, and that's the only moment that really matters. I would even go on to say that actually this is the moment you are taking birth as consciousness, and this is the moment you are dying as consciousness. There will be consciousness later also, or there might be, but this is not same consciousness. Just like you light a candle, light keeps coming, but light is coming because candle is burning then and is producing the light. Light can come 5 minutes later also, but that is another. It might appear continuously, but only reason it is appearing continuously because candle keeps burning. Something keeps burning in the candle. So,
are you saying like a movie film, like frame after frame? So it's each frame is a brand new frame that's appearing in the now.
yeah.
In a sense, yeah. So even if you shot a movie of a candle burning for 5 minutes, even, because I used to work with film, of course, each frame is maybe it's even a second less than that, perhaps. So that the frame you're seeing now is a new frame, and the frame that happened 5 minutes ago is already down the way. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The only reaction I think I'd say to that is I agree that consciousness is always changing, but when you say awareness, that's not been my experience that the awareness is changing. Because the awareness, my experience when I am really looking at the awareness, it really doesn't seem to change. It's just like this, it's going back to the movie, I would say it's just this no thing, something watching the movie, and that everything that's changing is happening in the story, but the awareness, in other words, can you see the awareness leave? Does the awareness leave? And now there's an old awareness, and now we have a new awareness. But even if you said you could see that, that would suggest that there's even awareness prior to that awareness, you know. So I feel like if you just keep going back and back, you come to no place of this changeless awareness. Does that resonate with you at all, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, what you are saying is, I mean, at least from non-dual perspective, or from lot of teaching, a lot of books, it is how it is taught. But I started questioning it. So first, I would give you an example, and then I will describe why I started questioning it. So, say a candle is burning in this room, and I am sitting here in this room, and you come and visit and see this candle burning. I blow it out, so there is no candle, no light. Then I blow it again, and I do it like whatever number of times, 5 times, 10 times. You come back 2 hours later, and candle is still burning. To you, it would appear as if it's the same light, same candle, and it has been burning for hours. So only because I am sitting there, I am watching it, I am the one blowing it out, lighting it again. I am aware of that. So that's why this illusion of continuity can be there, even though it's not reality. That's one thing. Even if you think of from perspective of sun, so scientists tell us that on sun there are a lot of millions of explosions happening every second, and that's how this light is producing. But if we look at the sun, we would see that it has been continuously burning for billions of years. I mean, as long as we have seen it, because we are not. I mean, we are not aware at that level. So that is one analogy. And so in non-duality, people often talk about deep dreamless sleep, and they say that's probably the purest state of non-duality or awareness. And for a long time, I had to question that. I didn't understand what they mean, in the sense like how do I know how it is in deep dreamless sleep? But then what happened was, for whatever reason, few times, maybe like 2 or 3 times, I remained aware throughout the night. So remained aware when there was very little dream, but remained aware even when it was so-called deep dreamless sleep. And then I found out that deep dreamless sleep is not that different than your meditation. It's, and dream is not that different from your thought. Only thing difference in sleep, in the sleep you don't have this I, this doership, this free will. In your dream, in your sleep, you don't think you have power to change your dreams, change your thought, or to change your state. So whatever happens, happens. In the daytime, when you are meditating, when you are thinking, you have this periodic realization or awareness that, oh, I have a free will, I can stop it, I can change this thought, I can think of something else, or I can change my meditation. If you let go of free will, if you let go of doership, if you let go of I am, even right now, as the thought comes, it would appear as a dream. Even right now, if thoughts go away, and you are meditating, or not meditating, just thought go away, and you are not thinking of I am, free will, it would appear a deep dreamless sleep. So that was one experience. But what really started me on questioning this continuity of consciousness is that I started losing consciousness. So what would happen is, like, say I'm talking to you, and say for a few moments, I don't know how long, certainly short enough that I didn't like really faint or die, I would just disappear. Disappear in the sense like I have no sense of what happened, where I was, what I was speaking, as if that time didn't exist for me. And it happened many times, and that's how I basically started thinking that maybe this consciousness, this awareness is something like, say, like light of a candle or heat of a fire. There's something that is being produced, and in that consciousness, that awareness, I am basically forming the whole story, creating an identity, thinking of I am, associating this with something stored in memory. But actually, this root itself, this consciousness itself, might be just a process, and only reason it appears continuously because it is being produced continuously. Like you have, say, you have started some kind of campfire. In campfire, you have a lot of dry grass. So one dry grass burns and it disappears. But because there are like so many millions of or billions of dry grass there, it keeps burning. So fire appears continuous, but in reality, fire born from one grass is already gone. That grass itself is gone. So same way, maybe in your body, we have billions of neurons, billions of cells. So they keep producing this, but because they keep producing it almost all the time, for us it appears continuous. I even thought that, and that's just a hypothesis, it's just a guess. It's not a scientific proof, or this is just, I mean, a lot of things we can only guess. So my guess is that maybe whenever you are taking a breathe in and breathing out, so when you are breathing in, at some level, you already have a break in your thought. When you are breathing out, you already have some break in your thought, natural breath. And if you pay attention, you can start noticing it. Only in the middle duration between taking a breath and breathing out, you have this ability to think or ability to continue a story. So I'm saying that maybe when you are taking a breath in, that's when basically this consciousness producing activity is triggering, and it's triggering all the time. That's why I feel is continuous. So that's my hypothesis. I'm not saying it's scientific.
Two things come to mind. So are you saying that your experience when you would lose time or consciousness, is it somehow different for you than when we just fall asleep at night and the body falls asleep and the world disappears and the me disappears, everything disappears?
Yeah, it's completely different. So what happens is, as I said, that few times it happened that I slept aware. So I was aware of everything. And even naturally, for whatever reason, so other than sometimes when I might be in very deep dream, which rarely happens, anytime I'm sleeping in night, my kids, my wife, or anybody can ask me any question and I would answer that. I would answer that as well as I can answer it in daytime. And that's not something spiritual, because that has existed even before I got into any spiritual practice or anything. My mother also, I think, sleeps that way. So that may not be that uncommon. So, and even if you do not take me as an example, my mother, you can ask yourself. So you set an alarm to wake up at 4:30 because you have a flight to catch at 6:30. Now, if you are really asleep, if the world is everything is dead for you, who the hell hears this alarm clock? And on hearing the alarm clock, who knows that, oh, this alarm clock means that I have to wake up and I have to get ready to catch a flight? That means you are hearing. And not only you are hearing, you are present enough to understand what this sound means. So I'm saying that sleep is an illusion, and that illusion is not only illusion for me, it's illusion for everybody, because pretty much everybody can hear the alarm clock, understand what it means, and can even make decision based on that. So, but this losing consciousness was totally different. I mean, I was, as at least based on mental perspective, memory perspective, it was I mean, simple. It was as if I was dead for that time. I mean, I have no memory. I mean, I don't know what to say. In the sense, like, all I can say is that, okay, it's like you put general anesthetic on somebody. Yeah, that will be a good example. So people go on surgery and they have no memory, no recollection. So when they wake up, they are like doctor or family say that you are in operation theater for half an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, and all they have is that. They don't have any like memory of it. They don't have like haven't seen this time pass, haven't been aware. So it will be similar to that. And that's how I started questioning basically consciousness and awareness. So I thought, okay, it's not something that happens to me, because even you give general anesthetic to other people, take them to operation theater, it happens to them also. And that is different than deep dreamless sleep, because you cannot really perform surgery on somebody when he or she is in deep dreamless sleep, because body, everything is aware.
That's very interesting. My friend Kamal, who I spoke about, he tells me he hasn't slept in, I don't know, 10 years or something. And so it's very similar, I guess, to what you're saying, or somewhat similar. I mean, he would lie down perhaps, but maybe even be sitting up. And the body, he could, of course, hear the body maybe even snore or something. The body would sleep, but his awareness has just been awake for 24/7 for like 10 years. So I've heard of some other people when where it's their experience as well. So, but for him though, in that case though, that again that does point to something that is awake and has been awake for, let's say, 10 years, you know, so that awareness, that awakeness has just been there for 10 years. So another thought I had while I was listening to you talk was Nisargadatta talks about realization as being like a fruit that ripens and then it falls off the tree. And he says that fruit never goes back up on the tree. So I think there are certain people who really have a very definite line of, you know, where they cross and liberation happens, the me disappears, the ego's gone, however you want to talk about it. But also I'm reminded of Tony Parsons. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. He's very, let's say, absolute in his description of non-duality. Simply the me. He says Tony died. You know, one night Tony died, and it hasn't come back. Or Richard Sylvester or some other people like that. So I think for a few people it is very, it's like turning a corner and they just never come back in that sense. That me never is resurrected, the me or the ego, it just doesn't come back. But Tony would say that feelings can still appear and thoughts, but there's just no one there to have a problem with them anymore. So I think that's an interesting thing too, to think of maybe being an empty space of total acceptance. That maybe that's a little bit what enlightenment is, or liberation is, just this complete. Which is why they also say it's like love, because it's just an open space that accepts everything. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say that it's very hard to comment or truly understand somebody else's internal mental state. I would even say that probably is not even very useful or very beneficial to do so. And I think that's a common mistake many people make in spirituality. So in science, what you say is, say, in place of understanding the end result, you try to understand the process. So somebody tells you that, okay, boil the water, let it heat 200 degrees centigrade, and you'll see the vapor coming. And that's good enough. Somebody doesn't show you the vapor and see that, oh, here is the magic, see the vapor. So you try to understand the process. So I will say that, okay, give me the process, give me that, let me see how I can do it. I mean, fine, vapor is magical, ice is magical. Maybe something happened to Tony Parson or somebody else which is magical. I'm not interested in magic. I mean, it might be very, yeah. So
I wouldn't say it's magic, but I agree with you that we can never really know what somebody else's state is.
Yeah.
But for me, when I love to listen to all kinds of teachers, so I can at least get a sampling of all the different sort of conditions or experiences, and then I can use that to look at my own experience and say, well, is it like that for me? You know, how is it different? Of course, it's it's very different for me because I don't consider myself enlightened or anything like that. But in terms of like an ice cube melting or something like that, that can be sort of helpful to me. You know, looking at the deconstructing of the ego or the reducing of the ego, or having awareness be more awake so that I have some space to deal with whatever is appearing. But with Tony Parsons or somebody like that, I guess we could look at our own experience and say, well, what is my direct experience or my living reality? If the ego is still there, or if there's still identification, then more work needs to be done, or more sadhana. If it works that way, I don't know. You hear so many different stories that, you know, in terms of boiling water, that's very scientific. It's very A, B, C, very linear. But I've heard of so many different stories of people who weren't even spiritual, who wake up, that weren't even practicing. They didn't even have a desire for enlightenment, and yet their experiences that separation ended and suffering ended, and all of a sudden they were in this state, or stateless state. So it's a mystery. I would say it's a mystery. Yeah.
So I would say two things on that. So first I will talk about realization. So what you describe, like some awakening experience happening to somebody who are not really looking for that. So something similar to that happened to me. And before that had happened, I had only read about Ramana Maharshi in one book, but I hadn't read even a single sentence by him. I haven't even heard of Nisargadatta. All I knew about non-duality or Advaita was because in school text we had to read about Shankara. So I knew that, okay, there was some philosophy. So I had neither I had a desire nor, maybe even I had desire, but I had no hope, no expectation that I would ever get enlightened. So therefore I didn't have a desire. So I don't have a desire to, say, become somebody who has $500 billion. It might be nice to have $500 billion, but I understand that it may not happen. It's impossible. So why would I desire that? Because it's so far, far away. So enlightenment was something like that. So it did happen, and when it happened, forget about mind. In my sense, my body itself disappeared for me. I had no feeling of body, nothing, and it was stunning. I thought it was maybe death, maybe physical death, really. But otherwise, if you take the fear out, because I thought I was dying, but if you take the fear out, it was an amazingly cool experience. You cannot describe it. Sex, orgasm, nothing comes close. Not even a fraction of it. But then I noticed that few days later, as I interacting, and when I describe it, some people started basically questioning it. They were critical of it. They said that, oh, maybe you're making it up. And that's the time I noticed that, okay, my ego can still come back. I will say, so when people accuse me of lying, I might feel a hurt, might feel that, oh, how he or she can think that I'm lying. And that is the time I realized that, okay, it's not something that my ego has just burned away and it will never come back. And then I started reading more into spirituality, reading Ramana Maharshi and everybody else. And then I found out that somebody who get enlightened, main reason their ego doesn't come back, or pretty much stays away 99% of the times, is because once they get this test, they don't want to lose it. So they make this their number one top priority. Eckhart Tolle preferred to sit on park benches without a job, without a steady income, just so that he can be in natural state. Ramana Maharshi went and sat in a cave. Buddha never returned to palace, never returned to his wife, never returned to his children. So all of them made this number one priority. So they devoted their life, their time, their energy to it. So it's like something, some process that they're feeding every second, every minute. And that's the simple reason why it doesn't come back, or comes back maybe like only 0.001% of the times. That was one thing. And second thing, I read about realization, how realization is explained in the Advaita, classic Advaita text. So realization doesn't mean that you have to feel certain way. You have to feel bodiless, or you have to feel oneness, or you have to feel connected. Realization is just basically new knowledge or loss of ignorance at the level of mind, at the level of thinking. It doesn't have to change your physical state or your emotions or your feeling in any way whatsoever. So it's like you see sun going around earth every day. That's your real direct seeing experience. But you know that its reality is the earth that is rotating on its axis, and that's how we have this illusion. So this is the knowledge. Your feeling, your experience is still that sun is going around. But because now we have this firm, proven knowledge that it is earth that is rotating, each time you see this illusion, you say that no, it's only how it appears. But in reality, earth is moving on its axis. So they say that realization is very simple. It's just that you get this knowledge, you get it in a way that it makes sense to you, it becomes real to you. That might mean that you really experience it, and that might mean that you hear it from somebody whom you deeply respect, with whom you deeply resonate. You think that he or she would only speak real, first-hand, direct truth. And each time you appear as a person, you think you are this person, this Arvind or this Prem, or this guy who works here, or this guy who has this much money for retirement or no money for retirement, or this guy who might have this future or that future. Each time you know that, you question it. You think, oh no, that's not reality. I am not that. I am just this consciousness and this awareness. And whatever personhood, whatever imagery I am forming, it is I am forming, I am imagining, I am creating it right now. And realization is that. So each time it appears, because you have this real knowledge, you question it, you discard it, and that's it. Sometimes when you don't do that, you still have suffering. Like you go and sleep in the night. So if you question the image, the character in your dream is over. But if you forget, again the dream continues. Again you experience fear, again you experience suffering. So realization that I read in Advaita or even in Ramana Maharshi book is something very simple. It doesn't have to change your physical state of being, feeling, or emotions.
Yeah, I think the more we talk, the more I agree with what you were saying, that how can we know really what it was like for Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta or anybody, because they're not even in the body anymore. So, and neither one of us have met them. So, yeah, I think it's always important to keep coming back to our own direct experience and living reality. And something that you were saying, I think, about Byron Katie earlier was, it's true. Spirituality is so different for the modern man or woman because, hundreds of years ago or whenever, if someone felt this yearning for God, they would leave the world. They would go to a cave or a monastery or become a monk or a nun or something like that. And then it was so much more easy to live because you were with satsang all the time, like-minded beings, and you didn't have as many. They probably still had some friction, but not as much. So nowadays, I mean, it's so people don't leave usually. You know, some do, some still do, but a lot of people, the modern spiritual seeker is very much in the world. I guess I think about Jesus and his quote, "Be in the world, but not of it," and that's why I think it's really important to have a spiritual practice if this is what you want, because you do need it, because there's so much energy out there. There's so much, let's say, distraction, or as you said, people wanting you to be a person. You know, if we walked around and said, "Hey, I'm not a person," you know, people would laugh at us, or they just wouldn't want that. You know, I think I remember Mooji saying, like, a lot of people don't want you to be free. You know, they don't want you to escape, because they need you to be somebody in their movie, in their story, you know. So it's true, you know. I mean, friends have come and gone in a sense. I mean, I love people in general, I think, so I'm very social by nature, but I don't do the things I used to do, you know, because silence basically became more important, you know. And resting as that awareness, you know. Sometimes my wife and I joke about being in our bubble here, but we like our bubble a lot of the times too, because you know, we can maintain that sort of environment that we want, dare I say, need, in order to continue upon this pathless path or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, so I would like to end with another thing that Baron Katie said, and that also I find very true, very close to reality, and very practical. So she says that enlightenment is in now. Enlightenment is in this moment. Only real question is, are you enlightened right now? Because there is only now. She says, nobody is enlightened forever. So only
we're not enlightened forever. We're only enlightened now, right?
Only enlightened now. So
yeah,
only,
because all we have is now too, right?
So now, if you read Ramana Maharshi, his definition of self-realization is peace. Very simple. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary, no siddhis, no special feelings, nothing special, just peace. So I would say that only real question to ask is, am I peaceful right now? Right now, this very moment. And even not ask that, I would say that ask, how can I be peaceful right now? Or even don't do that, serve the peace right now. Do what is peaceful right now in place of doing what is stressful right now, and that's it.
I love how Adyashanti says, you know, how do we unenlighten ourselves? You know, because if we're not at peace, then that's the perfect moment to inquire, why am I not at peace? And usually it's because you are believing a thought that's not true. You know, you're believing a story, and really, was it Anamali Swami? I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but somebody asked him, when did your enlightenment happen? And he said, I don't know anything about enlightenment. All I know is I haven't, oh, my wife is calling here. I just haven't believed a thought in like 30 years or something. So, you know, for him that was the practice, just not believing these thoughts, not believing this me story. And hopping around a little bit, but I love Byron Katie's, I think her book was called Loving What Is. You know, God is what is, God is this moment. And so I think these are all very good reminders for us to just coming back to this now, and questioning, who is this I, right? That's Ramana's whole practice or teaching, is who is this I that wants to be at peace, or wants to be enlightened, or wants anything? Who holds these desires and fears? So, yeah.
Yeah. And in many cases, Ramana Maharshi has been close to ultimate for me, for many other people also. And many of his messages are very effective because they are very, very true, and they are very, very simple. So when Ramana is asked about his own realization, he would say that realization implies two selves, and one would realize the another, but in reality, there is always only one self. So he would say there is no such event as realization. There is only peace. And mind, because it is always tempted by, say, you watch TV, there are thousand advertisements, drink this beer, and you might feel this way, or they will show you like 100 naked girls with the beer advertisement, with the tire advertisement,
Right.
with like car advertisement. So your mind is always being tempted, always giving like some food to wander.
But don't you agree, though, the person who has made a commitment to this isn't so swayed by all of these distractions? Not as much.
So it's like this one, isn't it? So think of, so if you decided to have a healthy life, now would you go and eat very fatty food, very greasy food, or very high calorie junk food? You won't, isn't it? So same thing, if you have decided or you have committed yourself to be more peaceful, more spiritual, more awakened, whatever you want to call it, why would you keep watching or dealing in things that are designed to excite mind? I mean, I would say that you are kind of being insane if you are doing that.
Right.
I mean, some people are forced into that, and in some situation you are forced into that. So you cannot just walk out of social situation or family situation.
Right.
But you would not choose, you would not keep choosing those kind of things, but on your own.
Yeah, maybe in the initial, sometimes in the initial few days or moments or months or something, when you make that change, for some people it's really easy, and for other people it's a bit of a battle, you know, with those desires and things like that. But yeah, that's why it is good to really commit to a path.
Yeah. I mean, other very practical example I think is useful is, say somebody has been smoking cigarette for 10 years, and say all of a sudden he realized that cigarette is really bad for my health, and actually I can be without cigarette, and actually it feels cooler, it feels like better, calmer, more peaceful that way. But smoking cigarette is an addiction. For 99% of the people, it's not something that you can decide today and it's gone by like evening. So it takes some
Yeah, the
practice.
body might not let you stop as quickly as you'd like to. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is everything that we do in our life is an addiction. Be it thinking, be it emotion, be it fighting with our spouse, be it like cribbing about our life situation, cribbing about government, cribbing about traffic. Everything forms an addiction. And the reason it forms an addiction is because of two. First of all, everything, every major thing, every major emotion that we have is related to hormone. And hormone is a chemical. And any chemical is addictive. So it creates an addiction. So once you get this hormone again and again, your body basically tends to produce it again and again. And
But I just want to say, I think it's only if you want to have an experience, you know? And this to me has become a very subtle point, because somewhere along the path I realized, oh, I'm addicted to spiritual experiences. You know, I want to have a samadhi or a shaktipat or a bliss, or I want to do kirtan for 4 hours. So that's when I think you're really looking at everything as like, again, who is this somebody who wants to have these experiences? Because the only way something can really tempt us is if we're interested in it. You know, if we want to have a hormonal rush or some sort of feeling, or you know, politics or watching the news, or it's because we find them interesting still. We're still caught up in this desire for experience. Yeah.
So yeah.
Just remembered. One teacher said the greatest addiction we have is ourself. You know, it all starts from this addiction to me. You know, it's about me and my life and my story and the drama of it all. And of course, if you look, you see everyone watching movies and reading books, and myself included. I of course, you know, we enjoy having these experiences and we enjoy the drama. So I think at some point there, maybe I don't think there is a has to about any of this, but maybe at some point you do, or has to, whatever. I think Adyashanti says in the end you just either let yourself go to silence or not. You just sort of allow, maybe that's why they call it a death, you just allow everything to die. you really let the old die. You really allow the ego or the me or the sense of separation die, and you really just, so that nothing remains but this silence, which I think Ramana Maharshi embodied so beautifully. People would just sit next to him and be healed by this river of peace and silence emanating from him.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing I would say about that addiction and that wanting is that, one thing, for whatever reason, spirituality, non-duality has decided to ignore or overlook is that even as humans, we are animals, and we have animal body, we have animal needs. So if you keep a dog indoor all the time, especially if it is something like German Shepherd, something who is used to outside, and ask it to be peaceful, people will say you are crazy. To be like natural, to be at its ease, it needs fresh air, it needs to go out, it needs exercise. But for humans, we are forcing that, no. For you, like, oh, you can do. For you, it is natural to want whatever you want, whatever state you want, and not care about body, in the sense like you don't have any need to go out or go and play or go and exercise or go and take a walk or go and be in nature or go and be quiet. And I would say that that's not really practical or true. That's one thing. And second thing is that we forget that sometimes things start in mind and then it propagate to body, but many other times things start in the body. So addiction can start from mind, but once you have got addicted, then it starting in the body. So your body will create some hormone, body will create some feeling, and in response to that, you will think that this is why I'm having this feeling, and this is what I need to do in order to fulfill or respond to this feeling. That's why people get addicted to like drama or daily fights or quarrels, because they are missing that juice. Or maybe that juice is already being produced every day. It's got, you can think of simple thing. So I don't know about you, I don't know how old you are, but say like a few years ago, so I used to have, say like sex pretty much every night. So even if I am not wanting it or thinking it at that moment, my body will get ready at that time because it's got used to it. So every day, every night it is producing it. So that's not something that is starting in mind. So a lot of emotions, lot of thoughts appear same way, but we think is everything is always originating in mind only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. I love food. I've always loved food. It's true, sex. It could be any of the five senses, really. Yeah. That desire for pleasure, once you taste pleasure, you want to repeat the experience. And again, it could go towards spiritual things as well, but it's anytime you have something that's, oh, wow, this is better than being bored or better than doing nothing, yeah, the body or the mind or both, I think they're so interconnected usually that who knows which part is addicted to the pleasure, but it's very true. I've really enjoyed this, but duty calls. I have to go pick up my wife actually soon, but thank you so much. This has been really nice, Arvind. And I didn't get to sing, but if anyone wants to look Premdass music on YouTube, I have, I think, about 100 recordings now. And maybe we'll talk again at some point.
Okay, thank you. I hope your wife treats you nicely, doesn't get too angry at you.
No. I have about 10 or 15 minutes to get there, so I think I'll be okay. She's very sweet.
Okay.
Okay, namaste. Thank you.
Okay, all the best.
Bye-bye.